When a reactor at the Chernobyl nuclear power facility in Ukraine exploded, massive volumes of radioactive chemicals were released into the atmosphere, resulting in the worst nuclear disaster in history. That region of the globe would never be the same again. The disaster resulted in some gloomy things left behind. If you're curious, keep watching as we count down 10 dark things found in Chernobyl. The Pripyat amusement park isn't the world's largest or most popular theme park, but it is without a doubt one of the most terrifying. It was planned to open on May 1st, 1986, in time for the now abandoned Ukrainian city of Pripyat's May Day celebrations. However, 5 days later, everything went wrong when the Chernobyl disaster occurred just a few kilometers away. The Chernobyl disaster, which happened on April 26, 1986, is usually recognized as the worst nuclear power plant accident in terms of both the cost of remediation and the number of people killed. It took nearly 500,000 workers and an estimated $18 billion to contain the calamity. Despite the time, money, and effort put into containing it, there were a slew of negative outcomes, not to mention long-term health implications of the population. The amusement park was only open for a short time to keep the people of Pripyat entertained while they awaited further instructions. However, the city was told to evacuate only a few hours later. Since then, the majority of visitors to Pripyat have been photographers looking for frightening photographs to add to their portfolios. In 1986, the Chernobyl nuclear power plant experienced the worst nuclear disaster the world has ever seen. According to witnesses, the souls of those who died in the horrific catastrophe still haunt the town, which has been abandoned for nearly a quarter century. At the beginning of April 1986, residents and workers at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant began to experience a series of strange phenomena. Workers at the power plant began seeing a large black bird-like creature or a headless man with a 20-foot wingspan and crimson eyes. Later, the creature was dubbed the Chernobyl Black Bird. People who spotted the blackbird started having nightmares, receiving threatening phone calls, and some even had close experiences with the winged beast. Strange happenings were recorded till the morning of April 26, 1986, when around 1:23 a.m., the fourth reactor of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant exploded. Before we go on, like this video, pop the subscribe button, and ring the notification bell right now, or the ghost in your closet will manifest itself tonight. Some people will stay away from nuclear disasters, but others thought to themselves, cool, let's break in with a can of spray paints. Graffiti artists from Germany and Belarus must have missed the entire news flash about lethal radiation, or they may have assumed, like every third or fourth Marvel character, that there was a remote chance of getting superpowers. Graffiti artists infiltrated the exclusion zone for various reasons, and many of them left eerily beautiful works of art all around Pripyat and its vicinity. Artists in Pripyat created some of the most spectacular graffiti by painting terrifying silhouettes of the missing residents. In one room, a tiny girl with bows in her pigtails reaches for a light switch. Outside, a little child drags a toy truck around the corner of a building as if it is peeping around it. On other walls, people appear to be dancing, and 3 children appear to be jumping or floating, clutching to each other in excitement or dread. The silhouettes are very similar to the permanent shadows left on the walls and steps of buildings in Hiroshima after a World War II ending nuclear attack. Visitors have characterized the Pripyat shadows as scary or haunting, and if the images are any indicator, the real-life experience of staring at those strange shapes must be terrifying. One of Chernobyl's many curiosities is the supposed supernatural preservation of expired plants in the exclusion zone. According to the Smithsonian, the vegetation in the exclusion zone does not decay at the same rate as the rest of the globe. Radiation has a strong negative impact on decomposers such as fungi, bacteria, and insects. According to some scientists, leaf litter in the forest's most heavily contaminated areas is 2 or 3 times thicker than in a normal forest, which is bad because all those dried leaves make excellent fuel for forest fires. Radioactive forest fires capable of redistributing radiation to other parts of the globe. Now that you're sufficiently terrified, let's move on to the radiation-eating fungus. While some mushrooms appear to have been harmed as a result of the disaster, nature's fortitude in the face of human foolishness continues to amaze. In 2002, when radiation levels were still high, fungus was discovered growing outside the damaged 4th reactor. That's impressive enough, but here's the kicker. After putting the mushrooms through a series of tests, scientists discovered that they grew faster when exposed to large amounts of ionizing radiation. Nobody knows what happened after the experiments, but it's easy to imagine the fungus consuming the scientists and now slowly spreading to a nearby Japanese city. One of the few bright spots in the chaos of the woodland is inside the exclusion zone. Before the accident, there wasn't much wildlife in the area. For the same reasons, there isn't much wildlife anywhere humans live. Wild animals dislike us, and most people are afraid of them. When humans were gone from the exclusion zone, all the animals thought, cool, let's reproduce. And the Chernobyl region now contains a surprising diversity of non-mutated creatures. The animals appear to be normal, but if you tried and eat one, you'd most likely end up as a Christmas decoration. Radiation levels in wild boar butchered near Chernobyl in the early 1990s, just a few years after the disaster, were more than 2,000 times what was considered tolerable. Even today, eating wildlife slain within the exclusion zone or even as far away as Sweden can expose you to radiation levels dozens of times higher than those considered safe. This may appear to be a bad situation, but when you consider the implications for all those wild boar and bison, it's possibly the best adaptation ever. If you make yourself radioactive, most human predators will overlook you. Decades of horror films have demonstrated one fundamental fact of existence. Old broken dolls are unnerving. They're especially dangerous when they're near nuclear waste sites. Pripyat is filled with ancient broken dolls, so many that it nearly appears if a creepy doll, mad scientist cloning operation is in full swing somewhere in town, most likely near the tomb. Everywhere you go in Pripyat, creepy dolls stare at you. As they sit on windowsills, propped up on skeletal bed frames, and sprawled out in piles of rubble, some of them are even wearing gas masks. While it's tempting to think that everything in Pripyat is still in the same location it was on the day of the evacuation, the truth is that tourists looking for a great shot rearranged the majority of it for maximum creep effect. Some of the dolls may not even be originals. Several of them appear to be nearly new, hinting those tourists are mostly bringing them along for Instagram purposes. Even if it is an unusual practice, it makes sense. It's not going to give you the creeps if you see an old doll in someone's closet, but when it's staring at you from the branches of a dead tree, let's all take a moment to let out a collective shudder. Middle school number 3 has the most photographed collection of gas masks in all of Pripyat, which is where you should go if you're really into ruins. Because it's Pripyat, there must be a strange doll somewhere, and one of the falling building's rooms is practically carpeted with gas masks, with a gas mask wearing doll perched on a stool in the midst. While standing in the room, imagine the situation that led to all those gas masks littering the floor. Thousands of scared youngsters rushing to put on their gas masks as a massive cloud of radiation swoops onto the room. But in actuality, as is nearly always the case, is considerably more mundane. Most of the gas masks were likely never utilized by anyone who worked at or attended middle school number 3 at the time of the incident because they were in storage. Months or years later, they were most likely removed. If you look closely at the masks, you'll discover that the filters have been removed, and most likely by looters looking for the small quantity of silver hidden inside. Someone somewhere could be wearing contaminated Chernobyl tableware, or wearing radioactive silver jewelry. Awesome. Hopefully, you've recovered from hearing about the non-altered fauna near Chernobyl, so we can now tell you about the horribly mutated agricultural animals that were born near the sites. According to ThoughtCo, a spike in malformed farm animals occurred shortly after the disaster and again in 1989 and in 1990, which is thought to have coincided with the failure of the sarcophagus. The uber creepy concrete tomb that crews built around the failed reactor in the mad hope of it stopping leaking radiation and producing deformed farm animals. Mutations in the area's cattle, pigs, goats, and horses include crazy screwed up faces, extra limbs, dwarfism, and unusual colors. The last one looks to be acceptable, but many of the others were life-threatening changes, which was very bad news for everyone involved, especially the changed animals. However, no three-eyed fish have been discovered. That is something we are aware of. If you plan to travel to Pripyat, the tour companies that ensure that the journey to Pripyat will be devoid of mutants in general. Dosimeters seldom read high during a tour. In fact, the highest reading is equivalent to what you get on a round-trip flight from San Francisco to Paris. That doesn't exactly alleviate Chernobyl-related anxiety. Rather, it makes flying a little more fearful, but that's fine. Despite this, the temptation is tough to resist. There's a sense of, you did what? About visiting that makes it feel like a great idea. And the 11-hour trek to Pripyat is shockingly affordable, about the same day as a 2-day Disneyland ticket. The Disneyland giant mutant mice, on the other hand, are significantly more terrifying. UK scientists have used a fleet of drones to study the red forest of Chernobyl, one of the world's most dangerous regions. The term red forest comes from the ginger-brown color of the pine trees following the Chernobyl, when they were exposed to high levels of radiation and died. The red forest is only 500 meters from the Chernobyl nuclear power plants. It was severely impacted in the aftermath of the 1986 explosion and fire at the plant's number 4 reactor. During post-disaster cleanup efforts, the red forest was razed and buried in waste-yard graveyards. Many trees in the woods died and turned orange. Humans are still not allowed to enter some areas. I have to say, Chernobyl scares the heck out of me, and I don't plan to visit anytime soon. My favorite were the silhouettes because of the meaning behind the arts. Which one was your favorite? Why don't you let us know in the comments below? Well, that's our countdown of 10 dark things found in Chernobyl. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and let us know in the comments what you think. Check out our other videos and subscribe to be part of the fun. Click on the notification icon so you can see our new videos as soon as they're uploaded. That's it for now.